This video is brought to you by Law Excellence IAS Academy.
Dear students, good morning. Welcome to Deep Daily Editorial Enrichment Program of LAX R&D. Let us start the discussion on today's newspaper, that is 28th June 2019. The first article for discussion, a democratic requirement. This article talks about importance of having a strong opposition in parliamentary democracy. So in this context, the article will fit into GS paper 2, polity, legislature, and importance of opposition is the topic. So let's analyze this. India, when it started its journey, it was a single party dominant system. It means that the Congress was in power both at the center and the states. And during the Indira Gandhi time from 1967 onwards, competitive politics started entering into India and a multi party democracy took deep roots. Slowly, growth of regional political parties, all these have led to coalition politics in India. Today, again, the rise of the BJP and right wing has led to strong single party system in the country. So, in this context, the opposition and how the role opposition has played in Indian politics, we are going to analyze here critically. During the time of Nehru, Nehru was very much interested to have a strong opposition. But however, opposition was almost decimated at that point of time due to the towering leadership of Nehru and independence movement history of the Congress. So early days, Swatantra Party, Jan Sangh, these represented the right, and then the Communist Party of India has represented the left, Congress represented the center. So the spectrum of opposition, it varied from left to center to right. And Congress itself has said to be an amalgamation of different viewpoints and opinions. There was opposition within the Congress itself. So the Nehru was very enthusiastic to nurture a strong opposition. So in this context, he has invited Jay Prakash Narayan to take up an active politics to serve as an opposition leader. And the second thing is, Nehru himself wrote the articles that without strong opposition, there is a chance that Nehru can sway away from the slow democratic process and can become a dictator. So, in this, he clearly stated that lack of opposition will lead to concentration of power, weakening of accountability. Finally, it pushes the country to authoritarian leadership. And the second, Indian opposition growth is strongly entrenched in the social movements. If you talk about Jay Prakash Narayan, or you talk about Ram Manohar Lohia, like socialists, or you talk about communists, so they have actively participated in various social movements, and these have entrenched the respect for the opposition leaders. So, Mr. Kunzru, and then Ram Manohar Lohia, Mr. Gopalan, all these are the stalwarts, and they enjoy the legacy as like the Nehru himself. And the next, opposition in India has not only witnessed the outstanding parliamentarians, they also stood to the test of the time. So the major test to the opposition has come up during the emergency where Indira Gandhi started keeping them in jails. In this context, opposition, though, in the midst of the power exhibition, it was able to show its commitment to the democracy. And finally, it made Indira Gandhi to reverse the emergency. And this also has led to the collapse of the Congress at the center and rise of the Janata Party. And post 1980s, there are different narratives of the nationalism are coming up. So, in this context, Vajpayee himself acted as an opposition leader and he is known for his oratory skills. Post 1980, so talk of social justice on one side, talk of majoritarian nationalism, secular dialogue on the other side. When there are multiple narratives, opposition definitely played a role to enlarge the dialogue in parliamentary democracy. In this context, in 2014, BJP has got into power with stumping majority and it got repeated in 2019. There was no opposition leader. So you know that in 1977, a leader of opposition that act was passed in the parliament where a opposition party to be designated so it has to get at least one tenth of the seats in Lok Sabha. In 2014 it did not happen, and 2019 it did not happen. And there is another trend going in the states like Telangana, Andhra Pradesh, where a party which won the election is trying to defect the MLAs from the opposition to decimate the opposition. So here, every political party in India has to remember that existence of strong opposition makes it to realize its own potential. If strong opposition is decimated, opposition comes from within, it leads to disintegration of that political party itself. So that's the reason why, for parliamentary democracy, for accountability in the system, for ensuring better principle based politics, respecting, protecting opposition is essential. That is the essence of this article. And the next, policy to regulate coaching centers. This article can be fit into GS paper 2 developmental issues, in that we have education as a topic. So, education, what reflects a coaching center? Coaching center is more like a shop which gives you information which can convert your information into marks. It means it's a power capsule where you consume too much in too less of a time to get certain marks and to take entrance into some prestigious college or to a prestigious job. So, in this context, there is no organized and orderly nurturing of the intellectual skills of the student. So, that's why an educational failure in a system manifests itself as a promotion of the coaching industry in that country. And the second, coaching makes education very expensive. Let's take, if you want to go to college, I studied medicine at 5,000 rupees per year as a college fees, but the coaching fees, it goes up to 2 to 3 lakhs per year. So in the middle class, aspirations are high, especially they want to realize their aspirations through education. Then there comes the role of coaching. So the coaching makes education expensive. And the next is, the coaching in India is an unregulated market. That's why the fees are going up. And the second, there are no minimal safety protocols are taken up in the coaching centers. So that's why the author argues that it is the high time we regulate the coaching spaces, coaching market, and ensure that some orderliness comes into it. And in the long term, the only solution to fight this coaching is bringing quality education through colleges and universities to the doors of the middle class, and promoting the need of quality education, giving access to quality education to everyone. Next is at the high table. So this is about India aiming for an UN Security Council seat. It is contesting for non-permanent seat in UN Security Council. Obviously, it comes under the important international institution in GS paper to international affairs. So let us understand. India is supposed to get its non-permanent seat in 2030, but Afghanistan has accepted the India's request because of the strong relationship which it is having. So, UN Security Council, it has 5 permanent members and 10 non-permanent members. This particular contest is for non-permanent seat. Now today, UN Security Council is more polarized than before. Russia and China are sitting on one side, and US, UK, France are sitting on other side. Obviously, India has to play more balancing act among these permanent members. Previously, India was criticized as fence sitting. It means it abstains itself from important voting rather than taking its position. So now India as a powerful nation shall take position on various principles. And the next is, unilateral moves by countries are increasing. You know that United States of America unilaterally imposing sanctions, and also United States of America has recommended, I can put it as asked India to stop its oil and gas imports from Iran. The same has been done with Turkey, and also has stated that India, if it imports S 400 missiles from Russia, it can impose sanctions under the Karza Act. All these are violation of the strategic autonomy of India, and also these are the unilateral moves. So that's why India today has to work for multilateral world in the UN Security Council. And then India can also push for UN Security Council reforms in its own interests, because India is looking for a permanent membership in the UN Security Council. And then India is preaching and promoting a convention against international terrorism. So, UN Convention to combat international terrorism, that has to be pushed by India for its own interest and for the global peace. Next article, BIMSTEC a viable option. Now, this BIMSTEC is an important international grouping. Obviously, this also comes in GS paper 2 international affairs under the international groupings. SARC was the identity of South Asia. BIMSTEC is more conceptualized as a bridge between South Asia and Southeast Asia. Now, today, SARC, the summits did not happen from 2014 onwards. And Pakistan promoting the cross border terrorism was cited as a reason for India's absence. And also, when India pushed for motor vehicle agreement, Pakistan opposed to it. So, the regional cooperation among the countries is at the lowest, because the countries like India, Pakistan sees SARC from strategic and security dimension rather than from the regional cooperation dimension. And the second, if we take BIMSTEC, though it do not have a secretariat till now, and added to that, it do not have regular summits, but it is more promising, because ASEAN is a booming market and a place for quality human resources, and at the same time, India is looking for more trade relations in its growth. And second, Indian adversaries like China, Pakistan are not the members of BIMSTEC. And third, unlike SARC, more than strategic and security issues, cultural, economic, and social relations are expected to grow in BIMSTEC. So that's why India is hoping BIMSTEC to be a more to be an instrument for regional cooperation in the long run over SARC. But however, remember, SARC is the identity of South Asia. BIMSTEC is only a bridge between South Asia and Southeast Asia. This point we shall not forget. Prudent prescription. This is about small medium enterprises. So micro small medium enterprises RBI panel, it has given certain strong recommendations to improve their position. So obviously it will be helpful for us in GS paper 3 economy. Under industry we have micro small medium enterprises. First, let's understand importance or economic importance of MSMEs. 28% of our GDP, 45% of the manufacturing output, 11%, 11 crore employment is generated from MSME. And if you take, for this matter, Germany, so UK, these are more depending on MSMEs for inclusive growth, and also for prosperity. So India, it is high time, has to remove the challenges which the MSMEs are facing. So what are the major challenges? First, ease of doing business is very complex for MSMEs. The lack of proper infrastructure and access to credit and capital, these are the major challenges which they are facing. And today, because of the weakening of the exports and global demand, they are also facing the challenge of inventory accumulation. It means whatever they have produced, they are unable to push them into the market and sell them in the market. And then, as these are depending on companies, multinational corporations, and also big companies, these have to supply them the products on credit. And timely payments are not being made to the MSMEs. The biggest challenge today for MSMEs is lack of proper cash flows because of the delayed payments from the bigger companies. So, in doing this towards improving the credit, so repurposing the SIDB, that is what is the first step proposed. And the second is technology shall be adopted for solving the various problems of MSMEs, especially for various clearances and permissions. And the next is the payments, delayed payments, has to be rectified. That's why the panel has proposed that how much is the payment when it has to be paid to that organization, and generation of invoice, time of payment, and the delay between that has to be exposed, so that which companies are delaying the payments will be visible, and it will have a lot of moral factor. And then there is government e-market. It is meant for the procurement of the central government. This government e-market has to be integrated with trade related discounts which are to be given to the MSMEs. So if this much is being supplied, this is what is the incentive. So the trade receivables discounting system and government e-market both need to be integrated. And the second, the banks have to lend the that is small scale industries based on cash flows. So these are the things which has to be done as per the panel recommendations. Next, will the idea of one nation, one poll work in India? We have discussed enough on simultaneous elections, but let's revise the points again. As I have stated to you, this GS paper 2 polity, and it comes under Representation of People's Act. But let us see points under this. First is the simultaneous polls. Is it not anti democratic? Is it not anti federal? Is it going against the regional political parties? Or is it not leading to concentration of authority? Let's analyze these points. When Lok Sabha and Legislative Assembly elections are simultaneously held, it means they shall have fixed tenure. It means that we have to dilute no confidence motion. So, when no confidence motion is diluted, obviously parliamentary accountability is diluted. And the second thing is when one government or one party wins both Lok Sabha Legislative Assembly elections, it obviously leads to the excessive concentration of the power in one single party. And today, where parties are being more denoted or denominated by the leaders, then it will transform India into more a presidential style of functioning. And the third thing, when simultaneous elections were held, an emotional rhetoric that can run across the country can push the people to vote for one single party. And obviously, that is not in the great interest of dissipation of power. And then, when state governments or central governments they lose majority, and what shall be the way out? And misuse of article 356 is still rampant. Unless misuse of article 356 is done away with, we cannot ensure the stability of the governments at the states. And finally, today in India, federalism is at the brink of collapse, and it is also part of the basic structure. As for the federal idea, states shall have their own style of functioning, shall have their own process of elections, etc. In this context, pushing the timetable onto the states is unadvisable. And one party getting into power at the center and the states will push back India towards the single party dominant system, which is not in the spirit of the federalism in this country. Next comes to the live mint paper. So the first is with regard to government should consider expanding the tax base for national calamity contingency duty NCCD. So obviously this comes under disaster management in paper 3 of our GS. So let's see this article. We have National Disaster Management Act, which has come into existence in 2005. According to this, there has to be three plans and three funds. So one is National Disaster Management Plan at the national level, state level, and the district level. National disaster mitigation plan at the national, state, and district level, and also disaster relief and mitigation funds at the national, state, and district level. Today, national disaster relief fund and state disaster relief fund are created, but there are no funds that exist for long-term mitigation. So, in this context, the states like Kerala have asked for imposition of 1% of SGST as a cess towards the calamity relief. So obviously, when Kerala has asked for, other states also will soon ask for that. So then one nation, one tax, which GST is known for, will get diluted. So it is not in the good principle of the tax system, and it disarrays the GST. And the second, Kerala is also raising rupee denominated masala bonds and loans from abroad. You know Article 293. According to this, state governments or state government entities cannot borrow from outside. So, allowing the states to borrow from outside will lead to mismanagement of India's borrowings, and India will not have a consolidated sheet of its total borrowings. So that's why these two shall not be allowed for. Then what we have to do with regard to calamity relief? Already we have national calamity contingency duty. It can be imposed at the center's level, and the funds from this cess has to go to National Disaster Relief Fund. From there, the states need to be compensated. In that way, there will be a uniform imposition of cessar duty across the country rather than allowing for the states to maintain or to impose duties on their interest. This is the essence of this article. The right convergence. Here, we need to understand the meaning of convergence. So, here we are trying to organize ministries and departments in such a way that the outcome of the functioning of these ministries will be maximum. So, in GS paper 2, under executive, we have departments. This can be seen ministries and departments. Under that, we can see this article, and also we can see this article in the context of the agriculture in GS paper 3 economy. So, what this we have to understand the convergence. If you take agriculture, rural development, Ministry of Water Resources, and then forests, environment, all these have lot of interdependencies, but these are made into silos. Agriculture separate ministry, rural development separate ministry, water resources separate ministry, sanitation and drinking water separate ministry. So now government of India is trying to bring in convergence. If you see Ministry of Jal Shakti, it has integrated sanitation, drinking water, irrigation, everything into one single ministry. Similarly, in agriculture also, the Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Development are being integrated. If you see MG Narega, where most of the work is done to consolidate the agriculture, this is under the Rural Development Ministry. And development of skill development related to Gramin Kaushal Vikas Yojana, Deen Dayal Upadhyay Gramin Kaushal Vikas Yojana, it is under the Rural Development Ministry. But agriculture at the same time is a separate ministry. So, in this context, bringing them together is an example for convergence. Today, our objective is to double the income of farmers. We cannot double the income of the farmers from agriculture alone. So, what shall we do? Allied sectors have to be promoted. So, when allied sectors have to be promoted, the rural development has to come hand in hand with the agriculture. This is what convergence. So, in reorganization of the ministries and departments in India, the principle that has to be kept in mind is convergence. The next article, the GST Anti Profiteering law needs corrective action. This is part of GS paper 3, economy, public finance. So here, what is this anti profiteering means? No business shall make an unfair profit from tax reductions which are being brought in by the government, either from the customer or from the government. No undue profits, unfair profits. Don't misuse the tax reductions to your advantage. That is what is anti profiteering. For this, an anti profiteering authority was created by the Ministry of Finance. Recently, in the GST Council meeting, it was extended for another 2 years. So, in this context, what are the issues? Any authority has to function. There has to be a clear methodology. It means how profiteering has to be determined. So there has to be clear rules and principles on which one can make a decision. But today, there is no such a methodology. When there is no methodology, obviously, this becomes ad hocism, and it gives undue discretion to that authority, and it can lead to the harassment of the traders. So, profiteering is seen in a negative light by the bureaucracy, which will lead to more and more exploitation of the traders. So, if due process has to exist, first set the process. And the second thing, if there is no process is been set, then that particular authority gets discretionary power which can become exploitative. And the second thing is imposition of penalty for non-compliance also is been discussed. So 30 days time is given for compliance. If it is not, we are not compliant, 10% is the penalty. When there is no due process of determining what is profiteering and what is not, how can you impose penalty for delays? That is the second question. Third is, When anti profiteering authority has imposed penalties and recoveries, you have no authority to appeal. So normally in the case of GST income tax, we have appellate authorities, tax appellate authorities. Here, no such a thing is there. It means you have to go to the High Court through a writ petition under Article 226, which obviously gets delayed. So in this context, the anti-profiteering law in India needs correction. That is the essence of this article. Finally, thank you very much. Great day. So these days I am traveling a lot, Hyderabad, Bangalore, Delhi, like this. So that's why getting up in the morning becoming very difficult. And the live mint and the Indian Express, they get uploaded around 5 or 6 in the morning, and I get the classes scheduled around 8 o'clock. And doing this video is taking 3 to 4 hours. It is not with regard to the knowledge, but with regard to the arrangement, writing the notes, etc. It is becoming a bit cumbersome. That's why videos are getting delayed. And hope you will have the patience to look into this. Thank you very much. Have a great day. All the best.